Hi book besties, my name is Maya. Welcome to episode 3 of Booktober. And we are gathered here today outside of my room and the usual backdrop to talk about The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This book has taken me on a journey and has given me an experience, and I was lucky enough to be able to document that experience. So I am going to bring you guys along with me as I read this book. I did want to intro this video better than what I did when I actually filmed it, because actually this was supposed to be a part of something else. I was supposed to, well, not supposed to, but I wanted to participate in a readathon that G from Book Roast was holding, the ORILIUM Academy readathon. I still need to get the title. You know what? Hang on. Let me look up the title. I have my computer. Let's look it up. Alrighty. So after a little bit of research on the YouTubes, it's the ORILIUM Magical Readathon. I wanted to participate in this readathon for the autumn equinox semester, and surprise, surprise, when I looked into like all of the forms and everything like that, I realized like it would behoove me to create my character, to go through the novice path, and then to actually start my term at the academy. So I ex-nayed that because, you know, I wanted to go full on. I wanted to create my character, read all of the prompts. In order to do that, I just wasn't gonna have enough time, and then also on top of that, to add the studies, I just wasn't gonna do it. So I was like, you know what? And I also, guys, I also decided this, third week into September, that just wasn't gonna be enough time. And so the way that I kind of introduced this book was very much like with the intent that this was going to be a part of a different video, but now it's its own separate thing. So I just kind of wanted to introduce it a little better. So without further ado, let's get into the in-depth reading vlog experience of The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. Hi besties! Full disclosure, I've already started reading this because I was going to like introduce my initial thoughts before I even read, because I had read the Truly Devious series and like the little mini trilogy that introduces our cast of characters from the previous case and how all that went down, and kind of my predictions for this upcoming one. But honestly, I don't really have any predictions or expectations. I just was like, I liked the first book, I liked the true crime element, I loved the academic element, I loved the characters, I loved how like the past was entwined with the present and how the information was given to us, and we're able to give us as the reader all of the necessary information as our main character was discovering it. And sometimes us as the readers got more information before, so we also are getting our original cast of characters, who I fell in love with, by the way, from the initial series in this series, and it sounds like we're gonna get some more characters on the side, so we're loving that. It's just gonna be a big old party in the middle of the woods with a side of murder. What's not to love about that? I'm about 30 pages in. I would have more read, but you know, just there's this really nagging thing that just likes to take up all of my attention, and that thing is called work. You know, we kind of have to do our job and make a living and be a responsible adult, even though that's not really my first choice. But no, just kidding. I love my job. I love reading more. Sorry, not sorry. I'm loving it. There's a particular scene. Hey guys, editing me popping in for a quick second here. I will pop up in various forms throughout the video, and typically in my room, because that's where I like to edit, so I'm not in anybody's way or anyone can overhear me or my voice, because that is just embarrassing. Anyways, this particular scene is found in chapter 1, I believe, of the book, and within it, Stevie has some very interesting intrusive thoughts, you could say, while at her job. So she's basically at her job in a deli, and there are certain tools that are there in a deli, like meat slicers and grinders and okay. So are we starting to build a picture? If not, let me continue it. She's basically waiting for the story to close down, and then the next hour or so afterwards, getting to close down, you know, put on the headphones, turn up the volume on that music. So great, right? Well, it would be great if she didn't have a customer that is that type of customer. The one that is just like, here's this thing, and it's right in front of them. Is there sales going on? It's literally like, it's on a sign, it's on a tag. I don't know what else to tell you. Just like look with your eyeballs at the product and read. You grin and bear it, and you're kind of thinking in the back of your head, is this person serious? But then it gets worse. There are other people behind this person, and instead of acknowledging the situation of like, this person is being very picky, they are glaring at you for your slow service. And you're just kind of like, it is my job to answer questions. It is my job to provide service with a smile. It is my job to be there for each and every customer and give them of myself and of my time when they are in front of me and are asking for a service. And in particular, when it's a service where you have to be in a line. They get mad at you, and you're just like, what is this? What is this logic? So that's kind of what we're dealing with. And I kind of just wanted to set that stage because it kind of gives way to some intrusive thoughts having to deal with certain various and sundry utensils that are around her, to the point where it's actually a little concerning. I have some examples, quotes from the book, actually. Okay, so let's read together here. I'll read out loud for the class. The most dangerous thing was the meat slicer. But it would be hard to turn that into a murder weapon. Too heavy, and it has a safety guard. It could probably be done, though. You'd have to get someone into the feeding side of the slicer. Really hold them in there. You could take off their fingers. Stevie snapped back. She had been staring at the slicer, shoving imaginary fingers into the opening. Back to the initial footage. I can respect where the initial thought came from, for the most part, you know? Is that the most sane thing for me to say on a public platform? Probably not. Am I incriminating myself in the future? I don't think so. I think we're fine. I haven't gotten there yet as far as murder and wanting to murder someone. Has other thoughts come into play? Probably. Would I act out these thoughts? Probably not. These intrusive thoughts, I would not act them out. So no worries there, okay? For anyone who may be seeing this who is a police officer or investigator or detective or literally anything that could possibly incriminate me and put me in prison, I have not done anything illegal that I am aware of. Anyways, I am really loving this book. I'm loving getting reintroduced to our main character. I'm kind of loving all of the characters so far that we've met that were from the past that are going to be our victims and our suspects. I mean, that sounds terrible to say of like, I'm enjoying getting to know the victims. That sounds a little weird, but work with me here. This is fictional. I missed this author's writing and I cannot wait to read more, and I am so excited to do so. So I'm just gonna stop blabbering and I'm gonna have the rest of my break to be able to read this book, and I will come back to you tomorrow with more thoughts. I'm gonna stop rambling now and get on that. Hi guys, it's Saturday. Tomorrow is the start of September. I'm coming to you live from my couch late at night. Not very late at night. I mean, it's 7 right now, to update you guys on my reading. I am a good fair bit through. I'm 120 pages in, so that's amazing. This is a continuation of the Truly Devious series. The chapter has closed at Ellingham Academy for now, and we are following our main cast of characters, or the OG trio: Stevie, Janelle, Nate, my favorite, and we are gonna go deep into the woods to solve a murder. That does not spell trouble at all, does it? But what I really love about Maureen Johnson and her style of writing that is continued in this book, bless, is that we are immediately thrust into like the crime that is being committed. So the day of the crime, basically, or the moment of the crime, if you will, then transported to real time where we are following our main character, Stevie Bell, and then throughout the story, as we are learning more about what she's learning about, we are getting flashbacks to that time, and we're kind of getting more insight as the reader. So we have more insight than Stevie herself, which is great because we are able to pick up context clues, but we're still kind of pretty much just as knowledgeable as her, if not more so. Although I would say for the Ellingham murders, she was a little bit more in the know because she had like everything pretty much like looked through. She had all of the podcasts, all of the books read, all of the newspapers, could probably quote you them like front to back, back to front, left to right, right to left, up, down, like she had it all. For this one though, she doesn't really know much. And also it helps to establish all of the information so that as she is slowly like coming to that realization herself, regardless of how fast she's getting the information, we already have what she has. So we already have it spelled out for us if we're slower than her, which is me. Or if you're just as quick as her, I mean, maybe it's not redundant though. Like, it doesn't feel redundant. You're being brought back into the scene. So even if you know basically everything that she knows at the time that she knows it, you're still getting the scene and watching it play out like a movie. And I absolutely enjoy that. Reading update. I made it to page 200 in my book. It's not even 9 p.m. So we're having a great night. We're actually getting a whole lot further into the mystery. We're starting to get some weird, creepy things going on. The story is so good. The characters are so good. I'm loving everything. We're getting a lot of like, okay, so a lot of the first trilogy that I enjoyed, amidst all of the chaos, amidst all of the murders and the investigations, there were like real conversations about true crime and about kind of the effects of true crime on people and on cases, even cold cases specifically. But for this case, we are being brought to a very poignant discussion about survivors who are still alive, who still remember this going down, and how personal it is, and how one should approach this. And I really like how we're kind of being given two perspectives. So like we have Stevie, who's doing it right and who genuinely cares about the victims and the victims' families. But then you have someone who introduced her to this case, who wants to create a podcast and obviously wants to get a lot of like fame and exploit this basically. And so there's just this conversation surrounding those two things, but then also the conversation of, okay, so this person who is obviously trying to exploit this murder brought in Stevie, who is someone who doesn't want to exploit this, who genuinely has an interest in crime, but also is a human being and treats people like human beings. And you're kind of seeing how one person's actions and exploitation can affect someone and they're being able to help in this situation. Now, thankfully, the surviving members of the family who have learned about this scummy trick that this person is trying to play on them by giving them a library in remembrance of their family member who loved books, who loved reading, who wanted to give back to the world and just, you know, do amazing things, all for the sake of getting them to share their story for a podcast, even though they like literally share their stories whenever they can, because for them the murders are still fresh. No justice has been given. So this isn't something that they've gotten over and they're just not wanting to share their story. They're continuing to share the story. They're continuing to stay in this town because they feel like justice has not been served. And so now seeing how that could have greatly affected Stevie and kind of her look into the crime and actually being able to do something that would actually help these people is so just like, it's so saddening and disappointing, but it's also just like a great thing to have as a conversation in this book, and just as a way to kind of remind us of like, sure, you know, you can be into true crime, you could be into crime, you could be into horror, mystery, thriller, psychological stuff and stuff like that, but you really have to remember why you like it and why you're kind of diving into this world, and also you know, all of the moral questions that come of it, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, there is a morality aspect to it, and we need to be responsible for our own thoughts and opinions and actions as we broach topics such as this. I mean, granted, okay, fair, this is a fictional world, but like, if you like true crime, if you like stuff like this, then there are things out there that are real. Like, I mean, just even in this book alone, I forgot to mention this, Charles Manson was mentioned, and hello, that was real. You know, just being aware that there is a moral responsibility every single time that you approach something that is true crime related or crime law, things like that. There is a sense of moral obligation when you come to that. And then also just being very respectful about it as you write works that are based off of that. I love the way that this author is so respectful and brings those conversations into the writing without it being just like the character that we're following going into a freaking like monologue in her head about, is this right, is this wrong? But it's an actual playing out of something that could genuinely be a thing that, you know, we need to talk about and address and have thoughts and opinions on going into it, because you know, it's just really cool. So I appreciate that. Loving this book. So I'm gonna take a little mini break for some food, and hopefully we'll get some more reading done. But yeah, I honestly can I be very honest, I did not think I would have an update, a talking one, before tomorrow, so I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. This is going really well, and also famous last words, I might finish this by tonight. Yeah, that's where I'll leave ya. Finished reading the book, got ready for church, now are sitting outside of Dunkin' because pumpkin season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It's September and I can justify in my head that it's like the fall season. So I got me a pumpkin spice iced signature latte. The happiness. Money can buy happiness even at a cheap price of $6 and I believe 27 cents. Let me look at my ticket. I was accurate. I don't know if that's frightening that I was accurate with that number, or if it just shows that I am financially responsible and know where each cent of my money is going towards. And unsurprisingly and very terrifyingly, a lot of it is going to this beverage right here that I could probably easily make at home, but I choose not to because laziness. I just read myself quicker than I have been reading any of my books thus far this year. Okay, guess what? Reading update. I am so close to finishing this book. I'm about 40 pages away. I am just loving getting back into this world. I'm loving falling back in love with certain characters, specifically one that just like has my heart and soul, and if you come for my baby, I will actually legitimately start a war. And I do think that, you know, this one was too close to hurting my child. You do not touch my child. You can touch all of the other ones, but not my actual child. Like, the others are my children in a sense, like mother hen situation, but this one is my actual child and I will protect him at all costs. And I'm very aware that he is a fictional character, and this is quite an interesting thing to say about a fictional character. But if you are into the reading world and you have had that one fictional character that is just your child, your kid, you would protect and defend, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you also know that my threat of a war is not legitimate at all whatsoever. I mean, I'm 5 foot, overweight. What am I gonna do in starting a war? Literally nothing. I would get my butt handed to me within like the first round of whatever I decided to do, and potentially have it backfire on me by whatever weapon I decided to use, accidentally doing whatever I was gonna do to whoever to myself. On that lovely note, it is time to head to choir practice. I will talk to you guys when I next have a reading or life update that I think is worth taking up your time. So, see you guys in a bit. Actually, it's afternoon. I literally just checked the clock right before I turned on this camera, and it literally said noon. So, good afternoon. I don't know what happened last night, honestly. I stayed awake to finish that book, had a interesting reaction to it, and basically threw it across the couch because I could not handle everything that was going on in me. Just like the last 2 pages alone had so much stuff going on that got to me emotionally that I was just like not prepared for it. And then also, like, for some reason I thought that there's an entire Truly Devious series, right? And there are many books within this series. There's even like 1 or 2 more books already freaking published within this series after the book that I just read, and I'm going to go and buy them, obviously, because I love that series, I love that world, and it's just a guaranteed 5-star. Spoiler alert. So I thought the mystery was gonna be like the little mini trilogy, like before at Ellingham. The case was solved in this book. Like, I was not prepared for it, but like, in a weird way, it didn't feel rushed at all. Like, it still had the same elements of the first trilogy to give it beefy substance, but also like enough banter and wit to make it enjoyable. I don't know what I was expecting of this mystery. I don't know, like, maybe I thought that, you know, we were just getting the context, the setup, the setting, and the characters and everything like that, that when the book ended and the mystery was solved, I was kind of just like, so then what are the other books about? And I guess that's kind of the whole point, because now I want to know, what are the other books about? And I want to buy those books. Yeah, it was 11 at night, so I wasn't going to go anywhere or buy anything or do anything on Amazon getting those books. I needed to just kind of sit with the book for a minute, and I must have sat for a hot minute or something, because I literally went to bed at 5 a.m., woke up at like 8, edited something that I wanted to edit, fell back asleep at 9, so like I was awake for a full hour, but I wasn't really awake. I was editing something because my brain just knew what it wanted to do and it wanted to get it done. And then I went back to sleep at 9, and now we're here and it's noon.
Coming back for the outro. I had a great reading experience with this book, and I was this close in sharing my review, sharing my thoughts and opinions, but I decided I am going to save all of my reading, including the books that I read in the last couple of weeks of September, in the reading wrap up at the end of the month, because I have so many thoughts and opinions, so many good things to say, but also at this point in time, I was really just riding on personal quotes and feelings about characters and everything, and I was overwhelmed with emotion from reading this book, and I just kind of wanted to get all of my thoughts together, because as you guys saw, my mind just kind of went with all of the topics of conversation surrounding true crime and law and, you know, civilian how do I describe this? Civilian participation amidst cases. And then, of course, I was just diving back into a world that I loved with characters that I loved, and just whiplash of emotions, honestly, because, you know, the Truly Devious series, the initial trilogy within the series, like there's mini series within the actual series. Riddle me how that worked out. I don't know, but it makes sense. It really does. The first initial trilogy that was at Ellingham Academy, and within that case, it was spread over 3 books. So the storyline, you were able to get more of the characters, more of the interactions. They made sense. And even though, honestly, it can give you whiplash, it was okay because it was spread out. This is only 1 book. So the characters are too big for the book, honestly. They need more than 1 book to contain just their emotions, their energy, and something was hinted in this book. Okay, sorry, I got very passionate there. Sorry, I'll stop yelling at you. Something happened in this book that I genuinely believe is going to be hopefully talked about and continued in the next book. And it's not even like anything to do with what you think. It's the most like inconsequential story plot point, but it's one that I'm just like, because it involves my baby, I am totally like just now invested, because you hinted at something, author, and I want to know. Gonna sound a little psychotic here. I need to know, what happens to my child? What happens? Does it happen for him? Can he finally get some peace and closure of this and just like move on with his life? I need to know. Anyways, that is all I'm gonna say on that book. If you couldn't tell, I had a great time, and I genuinely loved this reading experience, and I'm so glad I got to bring you guys along with that. And yeah, and just kind of talk out all of my thoughts as they were happening. And I just kind of gave you guys everything, you know, the good, the bad, the totally irrelevant. As you guys can see, I had a lot of fun with this book, obviously. I have a lot of thoughts on this book, obviously. But now I want to know your thoughts. For those who have read this book, what did we think? And may I also request that we keep our thoughts semi-spoiler free for those who may want to read this book. Who is your favorite character? Why are they your favorite character? For those who have not read this book, would you consider reading the Truly Devious series based on what you have seen here, or the topics of conversation that you have seen here? I'm not egotistical enough to think that my opinion holds any sway over you. I'm just asking, from the conversation points that you guys have seen, from what you guys have heard happens within the story, spoiler free, obviously, would you consider actually reading this book? Also, have you heard of this author? Would love to know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to spend with me, and thank you for being the best bookish bestie that ever was or is. I almost said or ever is. Let me try that again and make it not look like I was hesitating on that. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. Thank you for being the best bookish bestie that ever was, or is, or ever will be. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.